On Thursday, the Supreme Court handed the current administration two major victories on the immigration front. In a 6-3 ruling that was written up by Justice Samuel Alito, the court upheld the federal government's lawful authority and right to turn away so-called asylum seekers, a term that is now so broad as to be entirely meaningless because it's now used to refer to basically all immigrants, at our ports of entry, based on a legal policy known as metering. The highest court in the land rejected the arguments that federal law requires our officials to process every migrant who arrives at the border seeking asylum, whether they actually qualify for it or not. That claim that the law says that we must do that is not true. And doing that is not our responsibility, it is our choice. In the second case, the Supreme Court also ruled 6-3 that the current administration can move forward with ending the temporary protected status of the roughly 350,000 foreign Haitians and the roughly 6,000 foreign Syrians that are currently living in the United States on a temporary basis. The Supreme Court ruled that temporary is not, in fact, code for permanent. Justice Alito again wrote up that decision in which he said that the federal courts exceeded the rightful jurisdiction of their authority by trying to interfere with immigration determinations that were not under their prerogative. Both of these 6-3 rulings, predictably, split along ideological lines, but they still represent significant wins for publicly supported efforts to tighten the border, for the enforcement of existing immigration policies that were all lawfully passed by Congress, and allow for responsible control over immigration. The Supreme Court also handed gun rights advocates a major victory that day by striking down Hawaii's controversial vampire rule, which effectively banned lawful concealed carry rights on most private property unless the owners explicitly granted permission, a reversal of the norm in which owners have to explicitly refuse permission. So in another 6-3 decision that likewise split straight down ideological lines, those who believe in the Constitution versus those who believe in getting whatever they want, no matter how unconstitutional it is, the nation's highest court rightly ruled that Hawaii's law obviously violated the constitutionally protected Second Amendment, with Justice Samuel Alito writing the ruling for the conservative majority. The law that was struck down by that ruling had created a default rule prohibiting gun holders with concealed carry permits from bringing firearms onto private property that was open to the public unless the property owner affirmatively authorized firearms or posted signs allowing them. The measure effectively transformed most public spaces into gun-free zones for lawful permit holders, and instead of private property owners having to explicitly post a sign barring guns from their property, this now overturned law forced lawful gun owners to obtain explicit permission before exercising their constitutionally protected right, which was why the law was dubbed the vampire rule by advocates of the Second Amendment, based on the classic lore that vampires can only enter someone's home if they are invited in. And that was the way that this law treated gun owners. Until Thursday, that is.